minimal electronic music, for those of you who know what that is. Josh presented at DEF CON 18 on the topic of building your own security operations center using open source tools. Please stick around after the session, as Josh will be spinning during the break to celebrate his career change farewell party.
No, I love the security industry. I'm not leaving. Hold on a second. Okay. I just had a weird technical glitch, of course, just in time. So we'll see if this works. One second. All right, so as you just got, I got this intro. So that's one slide. I'm a security analyst here. I get to review domains, review malicious behavior from malware and other cool stuff like that. And I've done a lot of work in the security industry for many years. I'm going to be talking about building an intrusion detection system to protect cloud services, cloud servers, and in my demo, hopefully, which works, it will show protecting a web server, like hosted on HostGator. So cloud hosting is really cheap, and it's convenient, and it's easy to do. An inexperienced user can pay $10 a month or less and have a server up and running in just a few minutes. The problem is that security is really limited. Just the providers that I'm working with today, they limit their offerings to providing documentation on how to secure your server or how to report a compromise of some sort. So what kind of people would even bother with what I'm about to talk about? I do it. You might be interested in doing it. It's kind of fun, but I bet that most likely most of the site owners out there are not going to be interested in doing this. So this would be something more that you do because you're a hardcore geek, or maybe you're providing as a service to some other people. And why bother doing this? I found it to be really fun and a little trying at times, and security is important. Looking at data from Fish Tank, which is a site where people can submit fishes that they think are real, and people vote on these fishes to say these actually are real. There were a total of over more than 3 million fishes submitted, and of those verified, there were just under 2 million. Just last month, there were 28,046 online verified. And of these online valid fishes for March, there were over 12,000 unique domains. And those attributed to a little over 2,000 unique ASNs. I tried to do a little research to see if I could attribute those ASNs to free hosting providers and compromised providers, potentially compromised, or actually purchased domain names for more targeted phishing, but that was a little bit more work than I was able to do. But this is just a list of all the ASNs involved. I'm just kind of scrolling through it. It's not that exciting to see, but I hope to one day be able to put that into some kind of beautiful graph or something. Additionally, compromised sites, sites are compromised just to compromise them for a statement of some sort. In these situations, the compromise is much more obvious. But in the phishing situations, the content is typically buried deep in the site, or malware is buried deep in the site, and the site owner is not aware of this until they're put in a blacklist or notified by a third party. In those cases, they usually, from what I've seen, in most cases, they remove the content. They don't fix the initial vector of compromise. Sorry, they remove the content, but they don't fix the initial vector of compromise. So using WordPress as an example, WordPress is a content management system, which I'm sure most of you or all of you are familiar with. There are plenty of vulnerabilities for past and current versions, and they're always being updated. There's a site, this is from a website, you can just go look at the vulnerabilities. Additionally, there are plugins for content management systems, and those are also exploited. In my demonstration, you'll see that I will exploit a plugin, and I'll show you observing it and not observing it. You can scan for things very easily. WP Scan is a great WordPress scanner, and I will show you some of that too. Before I go into more, I'm going to give you a basic, super high-level overview of what it looks like from the average visitor to the attacker. So you have your hosting provider, and this is super basic. Got your ISP. These are clouds. They're networks. And you have the internet in between. And when the person, the visitor, wants to go to your website, they just go there. That's the really simplest way I could put it. Now, let's show the attacker or the hacker version. You've got your website, you've got your ISP. Maybe they're not an ISP. I mean, if they're smart, they're proxying. But whatever, they're coming from someplace, and they just, they're there, and they go through the internet and visit the website. So I'm going to show you hacking a plugin called the Revolution Slider, or Slider Revolution. I call it Rev Slider. It has a bunch of names. There was a vulnerability that was presented a while ago. It's been updated now, but you could do a local file inclusion attempt and get files out of a server exploiting this vulnerability. I'm going to be putting in this string here, which is, I have this domain, it's my name. There's nothing really added except a WordPress, but I'm going to be pasting this command, and it just basically is an attempt to get the WP config file, which is going to have my database username and password, which would be a great start to compromising a website. So here's if I log into my jpyorre.com, my WordPress admin page, you can see I've got Rev Slider down here at the bottom. This version is the vulnerable version. So and this is just a visual of WP scanning my server. Anyone can do this. They can see what version of WordPress I'm running, which I didn't highlight, but you can see at the bottom I've got a plugin running. I've got Rev Slider. It doesn't say the version, but it's worth a check. I mean, it takes a second to check it. So I have a video here, but I have some actual demo stuff I will be doing soon. But because of the DNS, the way I had to set the DNS up, I had to do a video for this part. So opening Safari or whatever, there's my WordPress site. This is the attacker. They're pasting in that command that I showed you, and what they should get is a pop-up asking you to download the WP config file. And they actually get an error message. They get an error message from Mod Security. Mod Security is an Apache module that provides some security features. So that when it hit this jpyorre.com, this is actually at HostGator. And HostGator doesn't say they are running Mod Security or anything like that. So but that's cool. Mod Security protected the site, but we actually have no visibility into this at all. If an attack was performed and it was successful, we'd also have no visibility. All right, let's talk about the neighborhood just for a second. I'm going to talk about where this domain lives in HostGator, just to give you kind of some context of maybe why someone might compromise your website. Just some quick information. This is some DNS traffic for jpyorre.com. All that's hopefully me. It's not much. It's just me hitting the website. You can see there's an IP address, that .97, that's the last octet there. That's what we're interested in. We want to know who else is sitting on that IP address, because I pay $10 a month for this host, and I have a graphical user interface to access it. I don't have root access. It's shared hosting. Here's another view of it, just real quick, kind of from Robtex. It's a website. You can see there's jpyorre.com, and I've got my IP there. Anyone asking for where's this website, it'll ask query name servers and DNS all the way up until it gets to the HostGator. And HostGator says, oh, it's right here at .97, which I own, HostGator I own. But who else is at this address? Well, that's a lot of people, a lot of domains, not people. But this is a listing of everyone sharing that IP address. That's a lot of, I don't know what else is on there. I don't know if anyone's going to want to target that or target the actual IP address to see what they can find. Just an Nmap scan of that IP address. You can see there's a lot of ports that are open and filtered, a lot of room for exploration at the very least. Now, looking at a basic, how things have been for a long time, you usually have, if you have a network and you have full control of your network, you maybe you have a router you control, or maybe you're just in there. But you've got intrusion detection systems, which are monitoring for actual attacks and malware on the systems, beaconing out, and all sorts of stuff like that. You're protecting your mail server, your web server, your Active Directory server, all that stuff. That's great. You can go look at logs. You can go do an incident response on an actual machine when you see a compromise. But as we all know, it's easy to set up websites, and also the security perimeter is eroding quite a bit. So people are moving things, not just websites, they're moving things out so that they're easier to deal with. Now, in my configuration, I am actually going to be doing, you have the internet, and I have my intrusion detection system is going to be running on a virtual private server at Linode. Linode is a place I'm paying $20 a month for a Linux server, which I have full access to. It's not a hardware machine, it's a virtual server. I'm going to be running some things on there and sending traffic over to my HostGator server, and then later on I'll be switching it in my demo to another provider as well. I don't know why I didn't click the button for this little arrow diagram, because that's pretty obvious. Here's the intrusion detection system. It's running Apache. I'm doing some proxying, which I'll get into, and I hope I don't get killed before I talk about what I'm doing to mitigate my proxy stuff. I'm running IP tables. I'm running fail to ban, which will add some things to IP tables. I'm also running snort. I think there's actually much better stuff like Suricata I prefer, but I'm using snort for this. TCP dump for packet capture, and I'm using some other stuff. Maybe I'll get into that. Looking at my Linode control panel, this is where I log in on their website. I've got a Debian system, and it's pretty minimal, not very much memory, not much space. I don't have much bandwidth, but I imagine if you wanted to do this for lots of websites or lots of servers, you might need more. Oh, forgot that I added that. That was my A record for Linode. Anyways, I'm using an open proxy. Open proxies are extremely dangerous for the internet. I'm also mitigating it with IP tables. With an open proxy, you can have your attacker, classical hoodied person, and they can connect into your open proxy, which are constantly being scanned for. People are always scanning proxies. They can connect into it and then use that to connect out to another site and then do whatever they need to do, and it looks like it came from you. So they're really dangerous. This is my first rough attempt at doing this. I have some other plans which I get into at the very end. The configuration, just a little less than the last high-level overview, but this is still a thing. The user says, where's jpyorre.com? Internet says, it's over here at .97. That's HostGator. This is the way it's set up right now, and then they go there. The version I'm doing is they ask, where's jpyorre.com? And the internet says, it's over at .189. That's actually Linode, my Linode server with the IDS. And they think it's there, so they go there, and then it carries on over to HostGator. Now, the public DNS, how I set this up, this is where I purchased jpyorre.com and where I set my name servers. The name servers are, as you can see, are HostGator down there, and you just go in there and you change it to Linode, where my IDS is. This is the one change that the site owner has to make. After this, you wait 24 to 48 hours, although sometimes nowadays it's almost instant. It will update, and then anyone asking for this domain it'll say it's over at Linode. But of course, the files are still at HostGator, as you can see here. I have this as my control panel for HostGator. Zooming in, we see that we've got this add-on domain. And when I do the configuration, you'll see how I have it as an add-on domain. It basically creates a subdomain. My WordPress files are stored in this public HTML domains, jpyorre. So let's put an intrusion detection system in there. I'm going to do a demo of just kind of real fast well, maybe not real fast, but anyway, I'll just do a demo. So I have a little text document to kind of guide me because there's a lot of typing and I don't want to make you suffer. So if on the top window, I'm going to SSH into I have some scripts and I'm using public key authentication so I don't have to type passwords a whole bunch. Although I do have to type it a couple times at least. Sorry. Okay, and I'm going to do root because it's just a little easier. So this is me logging in to the Linode host, I'm just going to show you some things. Like I have, if I look at my Apache config, Apache, you can configure sites. I mean, you can configure as many sites as you want, but looking at my default config, I have this right here. I'm listening on port 80. I'm listening on port 443. 443 is for my, where I look at my actual intrusion detection results. Down here you've got, this is the proxy. I'm listening for anything jpyorre.com, port 80. You can modify this to do other ports, of course, because HTTPS is obviously a thing. Then this proxy pass right here, it says anything going to this domain. Send it over here. This is my subdomain. I have a server, whatever its name, absentfaith.com, and jpyorre.absentfaith.com is my add-on domain sitting at HostGator. So this is going to send everything over there. Quit that. I'm going to show you this section here. This is the proxy configuration. This is what I did. Proxy request on. This makes it an open proxy. This is the extremely dangerous thing that you shouldn't do. But I will now show you how I have IP tables configured. If I look at IP tables, which is a software firewall, I have nothing in there right now. I'm going to add some rules, and I won't go into great detail about it, but I'll just tell you, this is an output rule to allow all port 80 traffic to .97. That's HostGator. I'm going to add one for the input chain. And I'm sorry I'm not going into more detail on IP tables. There's a class I'm sure you could take. And then I'm rejecting I'm rejecting everything else that is going to port 80, and I'm going to demo. Oh, I should probably type the whole command. I will demo using it as an open proxy and failing and maybe slightly succeeding. So I'm going to start Apache because I don't have it running because I'm still a little wary of this whole setup. All right, Apache started. Now I'm going to run, I have a script I wrote to just kind of run TCP dump. It's going to show it streaming in the top window right there. So that's cool, it's showing streaming. It's not showing me some traffic, so it's not too noisy. You'll see some stuff moving as it goes. But now this bottom window is me on my system right here, this system. I'm going to telnet to jpyorre.com. This is connecting to the IDS system at Linode, and then I'm going to try to use that to go out. I'm actually going to go out to the HostGator address, so I will see success. So if I telnet, and then I got to paste something else in here real quick before it cuts me off. And one more thing. So I'm trying to connect to that subdomain, and we wait a second. And you can see down here, here's some WordPress content. So that was, it connects on through. But now if I try to use an open proxy, I telnet to this system again, and I'm going to try to proxy off over to Yahoo. I want like the index page from Yahoo. And I'll just wait, and it's going to kill my connection in just a second because I didn't allow it. I got some server information, but so people are going to be able to scan my host. They're going to be able to find that there's an open proxy there, but they can't use it. Hopefully. I'm sure there's always a way around something. So I'm stopping TCP dump on the top. And now I'm going to show you the rule I have. This is a snort rule. I only have one enabled because I don't want to make it a big mess. If I look at my local rules file, I have down at the bottom here, I've got this, it's looking for this content right here, that I'm going to paste in the browser. It's what I showed you before. And if I look at, let's just show you real quick this directory. This is where it keeps snorts. When it's running, it's going to write to a binary file, a unified file, and that file will eventually be picked up by another program, which maybe you're familiar with, called Barnyard, that's going to put it into a database so we can look at it. Looking in there, I've got one file, but in a moment it's going to put another file called whatever .u2 with a naming convention. So I'm going to start snort. I have a script I already wrote to start it, so you don't have to see the whole command. So snort's running. And I actually need to connect in again to the IDS on this bottom window here, because I'm going to run TCP dump because you need to see the packet capture after. So TCP dump, it's a script. I had the script ready to write a file called hostgator.pcap to a directory, which I'll show you in a few moments. All right, so now I'm going to open up. Well, first I'll show you. We're going to log into, this is the intrusion detection system. I'm using Snorby to show the alerts, the snort alerts. If I look at I've got a lot of these alerts because I've been doing a lot of testing, but you can see in a moment. You can see I've got, the last alert was actually yesterday because I was doing some testing last night. So 418 right here, opening a new tab, and let's go to, if I go to my text file, we're going to visit my domain. We're going to see HostGator. So this is sitting at HostGator. We just passed through the IDS, but now let's go ahead and paste in that entire command. This is that one I showed you before. When I do it, I get that mod security error. So minimize Firefox, and I'm going to stop TCP dump. I'm going to stop snort. And I'm just going to show you real quick, in this Verilog snort, you can see that there is a U2 file. It's got some data in it, 607 bytes. So I'm going to start Barnyard. Barnyard's going to grab that file, and it's going to put what it found into the database. So starts it up, and you actually see it. It gives you a little notification it found something. I can go ahead and actually stop that right now because it's in there. So we go back to the browser. And kind of I have to go back that way. So I click on the alerts here. You can see I've got a new alert here, 222. So we've got visibility into an attack. We see that there's the GET request. This is what I typed in. I know it's kind of a mess. Hopefully you're familiar with reading stuff like this, but you can see get wp-admin, and the whole thing is there. But you don't know if it was successful. You don't know that mod security protected you. So for that, you actually need to look at packet capture. So on the bottom window, I'm going to exit my IDS. I'm back on my local system, and I'm going to copy over that pcap real quick to my desktop. Okay. So looking at it in Wireshark, I'm going to filter on HTTP because it's to clean out a little bit of a mess there. Right here at the bottom, let's follow this stream. You can see there's the GET request. This is the response, not acceptable. So we know this wasn't successful. We know there was an attack. You know, you can set up your IDS to give you emails or whatever you want if you want to know when attacks are happening, although I wouldn't recommend it if you're using a lot of rules. But there we can see that it happened. So that's awesome. I think I'm going back to the slides. Okay, so now we're going to do another hosting provider that does not use mod security. I bought a host on DigitalOcean, $5 a month. I have a Linux host with I have root access. I've secured it as best as I can. I didn't do mod security. This is how it's going to look. It's the same as before. The changes are made at the IDS, not at the registrar, and it will automatically point it to this new server. As I just pointed out, it won't be changing. This is at DigitalOcean. This is my control panel. I have I set up a DNS zone. If I were to set my registrar to point to this, it would say this is where jpyorre.com is. But this is an internal, basically internal for this situation. That's my A record. The .32 is the address. So let's do another demo. This won't take as long, but we're going to see a successful attack this time, and we'll see the visibility into it. So first of all, I have to change. First I'm going to flush IP tables. This is removing those rules. I didn't actually have to remove those rules. I could just add more, keep adding more. I could do maybe 1 million websites. I could do a lot of websites though, but maybe 10. But I removed them, and I'm going to I'm going to add IP tables rules for the .32 address. That's the DigitalOcean address. Adding to the output chain, the input chain again, And then I'm going to add the reject, which will reject everything else. Looking at it, you can see there's my to .32 I'm allowing out, in, and rejecting. And then I'm going to modify my Apache sites file where I'm proxying. Oops. I actually need to modify it. Okay, so down here, where I previously had this subdomain, I've actually got to put the IP in, or you could do a domain if you're doing subdomain, but put the IP in. It's got to be, it's a relative path, or it has to be absolute path in terms of, it has to have HTTP://. So I'm putting the IP there and putting it here, and it has to follow a certain convention. So that's the change needed there. Then I have to restart Apache to take those changes into effect. And now I'm going to log into on the bottom window, I'm logging into DigitalOcean. So now I'm going to get root access real quick. I'm going to start, actually before I start Apache, I'll just show you what it looks like. This is my Apache config file. It's running Apache as well, which is serving my files. You can see I've got this, anything looking for 192, this address right here, port 80, send them over to this directory where I have my WordPress files. Exiting that, if I look at that, you can see there's some WordPress files right there. That's what's going to be served to the web user, web browser person. I'm going to start Apache, because I'm not running it right now, on my DigitalOcean host. And now if let's see here. I'm going to go ahead and start Snort again. Up at the top window, this is on the IDS. Start Snort, and then I'm going to exit, bottom window, I'm exiting DigitalOcean. I'm going to exit, I was exited root there, I'm exiting now. And I'm going to log back into my IDS because I need to start TCP dump. And I have a script to write to a file called digitalocean.pcap. So that's running. And you can see, if I go back into here, I mean, the last alert you're going to see is the last one I did because I haven't done a new one yet. But I'll just go ahead and let it load and see. Okay, so you can see there's my last alert, 2:22 p.m. Now let's go to jpyorre.com. This time we're going to see DigitalOcean, and I'm going to paste that same thing into the same local file include into my browser bar, and we will actually see a pop-up asking us to download a file. So here's this pop-up. Let's go ahead and get that file, and I'm going to minimize this, and then here's this file I just downloaded. If I open this up, I'm sorry about the black text, I just changed that, but this is my WordPress config file. So someone got it. There's my password, there's my WordPress database username. This is a great start for an attacker. They're getting there. But as a website owner, I have no idea that this just happened. So unless I'm using the intrusion detection system. So I'm going to stop TCP dump. I'm going to stop Snort. I'm going to start Barnyard, and it's going to grab that U2 file. There was one that was written. It's going to grab it, and I should probably type the whole command. And it sees there was an alert, and it added it to a SQL database I have running. We'll stop Barnyard. We'll go back into this, and for some reason refresh doesn't work on that page. I mean, it does, but it's not. You can see there's a new alert, 2:30 p.m. And here's the GET request. Looks just like the HostGator one. You don't know that it's successful. You need to actually have packet capture to see if it's successful. I think that's a failing of intrusion detection systems not providing a little bit more than just that GET request, but I'm sure they can be modified. Then I'm going to grab that PCAP file. I'm going to exit on the bottom. So I'm on my local system again. I'm SCPing that, well, hold on. Okay. Down here is my DigitalOcean PCAP. I open this up in Wireshark, and we'll filter on HTTP, clean it up a little bit. We can see here's this GET request right here. I'm going to follow the stream, and we can see there's that GET, and here's the response, and this is the file being downloaded with my password and username. So now I know, as a site owner who's running this service, hopefully, I know that someone got my file. I need to change my database username and password. I need to fix whatever may have let them do this. It doesn't say rev slider, although you can guess by the GET request up at the top. Hopefully, I would wipe out the entire website and start over. Now, going back into the slides, I'll talk about some potential problems with this. Let me take this back. It kind of kills analytics a little bit, the statistics on the site, which is frustrating. If you're a site owner running just a basic site, or, I mean, usually you're not doing analytics on other services, or maybe you are, but talking about websites specifically here, you want to know where your users came from, or most people do. You can see at the very top, my Linode host is the main visitor. The other two are me doing some testing from different IP addresses. So if you were providing this as a service, you might have to create some kind of analytical thing or some statistical thing running on the intrusion detection system. This is a little video. I'm showing the Apache log running on, it's running on actually the intrusion detection system, so we can see visits to jpyorre.com are coming from a certain IP address, and we can see the attack when, I think I do the attack again. Yeah, I do the attack again, and we'll see it being sent back to the Linode host, .189. So it's a little weird. I'm sure there's a way to programmatically deal with that, but I haven't dealt with that yet. Other protocols such as HTTPS, I have experimented with putting using a certificate on a site and then putting it on my IDS, but I wouldn't recommend that if you're doing this as a service, because then you're man-in-the-middling people and causes some concerns. But HTTPS, you're not going to be able to see it anyways. You could just let it pass through. Most of the attacks, or if not all the attacks on a web host are going to be HTTP. SQL, hopefully you're not sending data, MySQL data or any database data in the clear. You hopefully have it tunneled, which you wouldn't see anyways. So basically, just for this purpose, you're watching HTTP. Other services you might be running, you could be, of course, it could be other stuff. And I actually talk about in a moment how that might be addressed. So the open proxy, which still worries me quite a bit. I'm using IP tables to mitigate the attack attempts. I'm using some other protection mechanisms, such as fail to ban. This is me getting blocked when I was doing some stuff. I was blocked for like 10 minutes. So I was automatically added to IP tables. So that's another option for protection. My future ideas into this topic, I would like to do this, but I just haven't had the time, where I maybe set up a little bit more robust cloud network, and it's running a named server, and then it sends you off to a router. Router pushes you right through the IDS. There's no proxy involved. That way you can send any kind of traffic without setting up a Apache config file or something like that. And then I just thought of this today when I was watching that cloud talk this morning, which is pretty cool. I was thinking it'd be cool to watch the connections to things that like SCADA systems and stuff like that. There are honeypots for that. I think it's called Conpot. You could put an intrusion detection system inside the stream connections to honeypots, and then those would send data to honeypot server. You could have alerts, so you would see the attacks, you would see the alerts. I don't know, it'd be a cool threat intelligence feed perhaps. So that's something I may be working on in the future. And other than that, I've got nothing else. Do you have any questions?
Have you considered how would this scale? Because, for example, Pyorre ADS, correct? How would that, have you looked into that yet?
Yeah, I think you would have to load balance the, what? What? Oh, I'm sorry. I was already ready on the answer. How would you load balance this if it was in like AWS and you're doing?
Have you considered how this, so short question, how would this play out at an environment like AWS, for example, that has built-in load balance?
Well, I haven't really thought too much about that yet, but I would imagine, hopefully I wouldn't be using the proxy option. I'd be using the router option. You can throw as many machines in there as you need to. That's, go ahead.
Did you block out IPv6 as well?
I didn't use IPv6 hosts in here, so I assume I could proxy that too. I'm still exploring. Oh, I didn't block in off IPv6. No. I suppose I probably should. Yeah. Any other questions? Oh, go ahead. It was my first attempt at trying to make this go, and I was thinking it's got to be possible to have an intrusion detection system to watch stuff from anywhere going into one location. The open proxy is the only way that I could do it with software that I mean, there's other software, I could buy software. It still is basically an open proxy, but to allow connections from anywhere at all without having to specify, I'll allow these connections or these networks in a file of some sort or in the IP tables, I had to do the open proxy. Oh yeah, I think I looked at that too. I was just going with what was on the system. I was trying to keep it a minimal installation, but I know there are better options. This is more of a proof of concept and the beginning steps of research. But yeah, definitely other options like that, like mud proxy. Okay, I guess that's it for questions. Thank you very much.